In 1997, Evelyn Adams worked at a convenience store and won two multi-million-dollar jackpots back-to-back. Her total winnings were over $5 million. However, after a gambling addiction, a love of lavish luxury items, and a string of terrible investments, she ended up losing it all and moving into a trailer. Her story is not that unique. It has been found that over 80% of multi-million-dollar lottery winners go broke within 5 years. And the reason why is surprising. The vast majority of these lottery winners do not believe on a subconscious level that they deserve to be a millionaire. Because the truth is, they don't. Their subconscious knows they don't deserve it, so they unconsciously blow it all to stay consistent with what they truly believe they deserve, which is usually not much. In psychology, this has been called our deserve level. Most people have an extremely low deserve level and aren't even aware of it. The most famous example of this in the UFC was Chael Sonnen. Chael was a former UFC fighter who challenged for the title 3 times and came up short every time. Why? His deserve level. Let me explain. In his first challenge for the title, he beat Anderson Silva mercilessly for 4 rounds before a split-second error found him caught in a triangle armbar that he had to tap to. A fight he was absolutely dominating that he lost at the last possible moment due to a lapse in judgment. In the rematch, Chael was again dominating the fight until a lapse in judgment again lost him the fight. A poor spinning back fist had him slip, and instead of wrestling up or jumping to his feet, he slid backwards, got kneed in the face, and was finished. When Chael moved up a weight class to challenge Jon Jones for the title, he was taken down repeatedly and beaten for most of the round. Despite clearly losing the round, from closed guard he was not in immediate danger. With 30 seconds to go, he opened his guard and attempted a weak armbar. Chael had 0 armbar finishes on his record and had never even attempted one from the bottom in a fight before. This failed armbar led to Chael getting finished by Jon. It was discovered after the fight that Jon had broken his toe so badly that the fight would have been called off due to a doctor's stoppage at the end of the round, and Chael would have won the belt. Now, while there is no way to know for sure whether Chael was aware of Jon's broken toe, it is clear that the weak armbar attempt was another lapse in judgment that cost him the fight. It is then possible to infer that all 3 title challenges were lost due to a momentary lapse of judgment, a split-second poor decision that had definite victory snatched away from him at the last moment. And while there are many variables in fighting, it is possible to postulate that Chael did not believe, deep down, he was worthy of being a world champion, so he found a way to lose the championship fights that were headed that way. One possible source of his low deserve level was his steroid use. On top of testing positive, he openly talks about it.
I don't know if anybody's failed more drug tests than me, but the other side of it is I don't know if anybody's gotten away with more drugs than me, right? I mean, they got me over like 7 substances, but I was on at least 17.
Now, while this is pure speculation, one possible theory is that his steroid use weighed heavily on his conscience and led him to not feeling deep down like he truly deserved to be world champion through cheating, and he unconsciously sabotaged himself when it mattered most. Francis Ngannou is an example of someone who did the opposite. The former UFC heavyweight champion of the world recently made history by walking away from the UFC during the pinnacle of his career due to a negotiation dispute. It's because of his deserve level. He believed on a subconscious level he was worth much more than the UFC was offering him, and he left, risking money, his career, and his reputation in the process. To understand where Francis got his huge cojones and deserve level from, we must understand where he came from. Ngannou was born in Cameroon in an impoverished family and was forced to work in the sand mines at the age of 10 to support them. Despite everyone in his area being relatively poor, he noticed he had even less than his classmates.
I'm gonna go to school, and most of the time still didn't have a pen to take note or a notebook to write on it. Sometimes no shoes or clothes.
Ngannou, despite having less than his classmates, starts to believe that he's worth more than them and he deserves more than them because he's working hard in the sand mines and no one else around him is.
This kid, they are looking at me like I'm worth nothing, but technically I worth more than them because I'm working, you know, even though what I have is less than what they have. I deserve what I have. I work hard for it. And they don't deserve shit. They are just a kid. Right. They work and their parents provide for them.
On top of him having to work in the sand mines at such a young age, he also has to work in the worst conditions.
Like if you went to school during the day, when did you work in the sand mines?
Over the weekend, over the holidays. Adult doesn't want to work because it's raining all the time. Guess what? That was our opportunity.
The only shifts he can get are when it's pouring rain or the weekend. He's having to earn scraps in the harshest conditions while the people around him have everything provided for them. He continued working in the sand mines for years until he decided to realize his dream of becoming a professional boxer. He quickly realizes he has to leave Cameroon to do this. Despite never knowing anyone who had left the country and being warned that leaving was impossible, he embarks on the journey of a lifetime to pursue his dream of becoming a professional boxer. Why did he leave while everyone around him stayed exactly where they were? Because he had been working hard his entire life, and outworking everyone he had ever known led him to believe deep down that he deserved better than them. After a 14-month journey crossing oceans, deserts, and borders, he ends up in France. On his first day in France, he walked into a martial arts gym despite being homeless. His coach told him he could make money fast through MMA. That's all it took for the then homeless Francis Ngannou to dedicate himself to the sport. His insane raw talent combined with his resilience earned through his insane journey to France had him earn the nickname The Predator. He would quickly rise to the top of the UFC before his raw talent finally met its match. Stipe employed excellent wrestling in order to gas out Ngannou. His plan worked, and Ngannou went from sending everyone into orbit in the first round to being beaten badly for 5 rounds. This would end up being the best thing to ever happen to Ngannou, as he became a much more patient and well-rounded fighter, sending Stipe to outer space in their rematch. After the fight, the UFC would quickly crown an interim champ in an attempt to pressure Ngannou into another fight quickly. He would then defend his belt against Gane despite having a torn ACL and MCL, and Dana wouldn't even wrap the belt around his waist. It was at this point that his contract with the UFC was up and the process of renegotiations began. The UFC couldn't bully Ngannou like they did with the other fighters, as he had the heavyweight belt, so Ngannou went to negotiate for more money, health insurance, sponsorships, and the freedom to box.
I asked for a sponsorship, a right of a sponsorship, which we've been ripped off. We can't have sponsorship. I have for health insurance, couldn't have.
Despite the UFC offering him $8 million for each of his next 3 fights, Francis knew he was being massively underpaid in relation to what other fighters in similar positions were making. Tyson Fury, the boxing heavyweight champion, was paid $30 million for his last fight. In addition to feeling underpaid, the UFC was not willing to accommodate any of his requests for sponsorships or health insurance. Apples to apples, Francis realized he was getting offered a bad deal. $8 million per fight compared to $30 million. No health insurance compared to complete health insurance in boxing. No sponsorships compared to the millions in sponsors top boxers make. As the icing on the cake, the UFC was publicly attacking Francis in an attempt to simultaneously pressure him into signing with them while devaluing his name publicly. Dana White came out and said he was scared of John Jones, and that's the reason he was leaving.
I think Francis is in a place right now where he doesn't want to take a lot of risk. Feels like he's in a good position where he could fight lesser opponents and make more money.
It was their attempt at devaluing his name so other organizations wouldn't want him. Because if he did get a huge payday, it would set a precedent for other UFC fighters to do the same. Francis believed he was worth much more than they were offering, but he also believed he was worthy of deciding his own destiny. The UFC offered him the highest heavyweight contract ever, but they offered him golden handcuffs. He would be stuck with the promotion and all of their demands and needed to accept the terms they gave. One's deserve level applies to all areas of life, not just income. Francis felt he deserved more money, but also felt he deserved to be treated better, with more respect and value.
Maybe explore a possibility to do one boxing match and come back into MMA with another organization, promotion, or my own promotion. Everywhere that I feel respected, everywhere that I feel value, I'll be happy to do that.
He didn't want to be part of an organization that slandered his name and pressured him to do things he didn't want to do. But most of all, he felt he deserved the freedom to decide his own destiny. So in an unprecedented move, he left at the pinnacle of his career. Ngannou refused to accept less than he deserved, both monetarily and as a human being, and he is now in talks to box for many more millions, likely with a company that treats him with much more respect. He will make more than he could have ever dreamed of in the UFC, as well as live life on his terms, all because he had an extremely healthy deserve level. Overall, it's possible to infer that one's deserve level is in direct correlation to the work they put in. The hardest worker in the room will know deep down they deserve more, while the guy taking shortcuts will feel subconsciously like they deserve less. You can fool everybody else, but you can never fool yourself. Thank you for checking out the video. If you want to raise your deserve level, check out this video here. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.